The entire continent is awaiting the outcome of the 9th Pan-African Congress holding here in the Togolese capital in Lomé. We have, during this very important historic Congress, to meet with Dozie, Celeste, your Pan-African, as well as the African Diaspora Council of Switzerland. Thanks for talking to Africa Media.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it's been 2 days of discussions, or 3 days of discussion here in the Togolese capital, Lomé. You've been attending this Congress from day one. What has been your impression so far?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to use this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to the people and the government of Togo for all the effort they made to put this conference together. And I'm also aware that Togo has led the same effort in the international community in the United Nations in October, where they organized a similar conference to talk about reparations of the harm that were done to people of Africa and the people of African descent. So I would say kudos to Togo for making this possible. And I know it's always not easy to organize such a big event, but so far they have been very successful. So I thank the people and the government of Togo for putting it together. Now, I believe that this event, which is the third on our continent, the third Pan-African Congress on our continent, will go a long way to strengthen and stimulate the efforts of people of Africa to move forward. From the discussions we have had here, both from Afro-descendants in the Caribbean, in Latin America, the diaspora from different parts in Europe, Americas, Asia, and also for our brothers and sisters that live in the continent, it shows one thing is came out very clearly, that the people do not want to keep talking, they want to see actions. And in the committee, where I was one of the panelists and the rapporteur, we discussed about mobilization of resources for auto-centered African development. This time, we insisted on the auto-centered because long time before now, Africa has been a little bit dependent on what's coming from outside. So, but we believe, and that's part of our conclusions, that internally we can generate enough resources that can help us to develop our continent without going outside to beg for money. Because if we look at it, most of the people that also give us aids and so on, there are always strings attached to them. And in most cases, it is even the money made out of our continent that is being shifted back to us. So we discussed and then came out with strong recommendations, which will help us in a way of, first of all, to cut off some waste we have in our system, which will help us to save enough money and invest it more on the African continent, on African soil. So like that, we'll be able to achieve our aims so that we don't depend on others.
Yeah, Africa needs or wants that sovereignty. You talked about Africa having the resources. We have the resources, but Africa is equally faced with this aspect of mineral curse. We're looking at what is happening in the DRC and in other parts of Africa where we have these mineral resources. How do we get out of the mineral curse to be able to use those resources to fund our activities and develop ourselves like we actually want as Africans?
Thank you for bringing out this question, because when we look generally on the continent, it looks like most countries that have big minerals always accompanied with a crisis, insecurity here and there. One thing is this, I want to say is that these crises are human-made crises, and in most cases with foreign implications. But what I believe is that now that we're having young leaders that are emerging, that believe on the power and the strength of Africa to achieve its own development on its own terms, it will not take long before all those leaders will be able to take over different countries of Africa and be able to concentrate more on dialoguing among ourselves, because I do not understand why at this age Africa trades among themselves is about 15% trade, whereas with Europe is over 60. So I believe that by the time we start trading more among ourselves, these conflicts will slowly die down. And of course, with the emergence of new leaders who understand Pan-Africanism, who understand the strength of unity to be able to move, I believe that time is already coming. And we have seen some signs of such leaders that emerge, for example, in the Sahel and others, that have shown that, look, we can do it ourselves.
Yeah. You are from the diaspora, and the diaspora is an important asset for the African continent vis-a-vis the renewing of Pan-Africanism. What role do you think the diaspora should be playing, and what have people been doing so far, and how do you intend to continue this discussion to be able to achieve the goal that the entire continent wants?
Thank you for bringing this discussion too, because so far many countries have always seen the diaspora as a cash cow that's just send money for human and capital development in Africa. But the tendency is moving towards more of development of capital, because I think more than the finances, what the diaspora could give back to Africa is more of a technical knowledge, the human capital that sometimes lack, the expertise, the skilled knowledge that we need in Africa to be able to develop better. These are the things that the diaspora could bring in to impact positive development in Africa. And of course, the remittances are always needed, because we know a lot of countries, the remittances have a very important rate in the GDP of many African countries. So that remittance will still be there. But I think the diaspora should engage more now in bringing in expertise, human resources to help in the development of our country. And like that, some of these so-called expatriates that are brought in and paid maybe 10 times more than what we pay our local destiny, we'll start reducing them, and that will mean also more resources for Africa for our development.
What's your message and expectation? We're looking at the conference ending in a few days from now, but then we need to continue discussions. What do you expect as a possible outcome, and how do we engage to move forward?
I expect as outcome from the discussion so far, especially from the committee, the commission where I participated, that there is a serious engagement and expectation on the implementations of the outcomes that we're bringing in here. Because part of the recommendations that came from our commission was that there should be, as a follow-up, a subcommittee that will gather together the different recommendations and set up a roadmap for the implementation. We will look at the lower hanging fruits which are the short term that could easily be implemented without even looking for funding or things like that, and then the mid-terms and then the long terms. So the idea is that by the next Pan-Africanism conference, we'll be able to come out to say, this, and that has been achieved. And now we can move on to the next.
All right. Dozie, Celeste, your African Diaspora Council of Switzerland. It's been a pleasure having you on Afrique Media. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for having me today. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And stay with us, viewers of Afrique Media. The conversation continues here in Lomé with regards to the 9th Pan-African Congress. Stay with us.